Stand clear.
100% Wild Podcast. So for all you listeners,
hello and welcome to
definitely not your favorite outdoor podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dreary Outdoors 100% Wild Podcast. This is episode number 283, and we are sponsored by DeerCast.
All new DeerCast maps, Tim.
Man. Trademark.
Been using it a lot, especially the rain station and the radar.
Rain stations, 100%. Yeah, I've been really watching those rain stations. And if I don't kill a deer this year, it's not because of my food plots. They're looking really good.
There's a lot of things that we can place blame on why we aren't going to kill deer. Food.
It won't be in my food plots. Well, hey, before we bore our in-studio guests, why don't we do a little introduction?
That's right.
So we got Kevyn Wiskirchen from the Missouri Department of Conservation. He's a private lands biologist, been with the department for 6 years. Mm-hmm. And he and I got to talking about DMAP.
That's right.
The Deer Management Assistance Program.
Exactly.
Because one of the properties I hunt here in the St. Louis area is lousy with does. Lousy.
Yeah, I think the program is one that Mark actually was kind of part of the pilot program up in the northern part of Missouri.
Yeah, one of the very first years. Yep.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting, and I know you mentioned that Terry and Forrest, they're looking to get enrolled there at Terry's farm. So it's something that obviously the guys believe in and are looking forward to trying out. Mark's already been a part of it for, I think, maybe 2 years now.
This will be his third, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So I know he's definitely praised the whole program and the process. But I'm looking forward to you kind of sharing with our audience, because I don't think many people really know about it. Actually, I saw maybe a link probably a month or so back that the MDC put out about it. And I sent it to the farmer on one of my leases. And I'm like, look, since it's not my property, I can't do anything about this. You guys would have to enroll it, but here's the information, because he complains a lot. He leases the ground for farming. I lease the ground for hunting, and he complains about the deer pressure on the food. And I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it. There's only so many tags I can get, and so many deer I can kill. We really need to enroll it into a program like this.
Yeah.
And I don't know that he took it and did anything with it, but I'm like, I don't know that a lot of people know about it. And so that's why you're here, to kind of share some of the details and what it's all about.
Exactly, yeah. This will be a great opportunity to get more word out about it, so very excited to dive in. Yeah.
How excited? Like on a scale of 8 to 10?
Getting up toward, that's not very wide of a scale, but
no, I did it on purpose.
Yeah, so I'd give it a 10. Yeah.
Wow,
there you go.
100%.
Look out! Hot dang.
Okay, so who and we should probably also caveat this. We realize that some of our friends out there that are watching are hunting in places in the country where if they even see a deer, it's a successful hunt. So there are pockets around the country that are, they're different. And so we realize that there's some kind of unique factors here that DMAP may not be right for everyone.
And on top of that, it's a Missouri-based program. This specifically is a Missouri-based program that we'll be talking about, but we'll maybe also kind of try to dive into some of the other options that are out there, or if there are many other options in the other states. But obviously, you're proficient in what is here in Missouri and what we have to offer.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So take us through, who's the typical person that comes to you seeking help with DMAP, and then how does the process play out?
Yeah. So DMAP is designed really to help landowners address a broad spectrum of deer management goals. And so it can really be any landowner that might be interested, as long as their goal necessitates harvesting more antlerless deer than they're able to with the permits already available to them. So a lot of the landowners end up being agricultural producers. So they're seeing a lot of deer in their fields, and they know those deer are cutting into their bottom line, or they're assuming they are. And so they want to harvest more deer to reduce the damage on their crops, and so the program's used pretty heavily by by farmers here in Missouri. But then there's a whole suite of landowners that are more recreationally managing for deer and wildlife, like the Drurys, where they're more interested in just improving the quality of the herd, maybe maximizing that antler growth potential by freeing up nutrition for the rest of the herd, balancing the buck to doe ratio. So it can be a broad variety of folks that are interested. But in terms of the enrollment process, it kind of it depends on what their goal is. So folks that are interested in addressing damage, their point of contact is going to be their local conservation agent. Our conservation agents not only enforce our wildlife regulations, but they help address damage issues occurring on properties. They have some additional tools in their toolbox that they can authorize.
Okay.
And one of those is these DMAP permits to address the damage that they've got on their property. So they would just reach out to the conservation agent, get them to come do a quick site visit to look at the crops they're growing, make an assessment of how extensive the damage is, and then they'll determine there with the landowner how many permits they think are necessary to bring the damage down.
And so during that conversation, is there talk on like methods for the landowner? Like, what are you going to use to take all these deer out? And do you have a plan, and like kind of walking them through that?
Certainly, yeah. So they want it to be an achievable number. You know, they're not going to authorize
3,000 permits.
Exactly. If they think it's not something that they can realistically achieve or not necessary. So yeah, they'll talk through, how many hunters are you planning to have on the property? How many have you been killing, and what do you think is realistic if we up the number of permits that are available to you? And these are strictly firearms permits. So in most of the state here in Missouri, over the counter, you can get an unlimited number of archery antlerless permits. So that method is already pretty wide open. But in terms of firearms harvest, that's more limited, and so that's what we've broadened up to landowners enrolled in DMAP, is that firearms antlerless opportunity.
Now, how is this different from, because currently there's a program out there where farmers can get like nuisance tags, right?
Correct.
In the early season. So how's it different, and how's it managed differently?
Yeah. So that's been around for a long time. Like you said, it's typically utilized during the summer months. So outside of deer season, for those landowners that have damage going on, they can contact their agent, and at the agent's discretion, they can authorize a landowner to remove those deer. They're not allowed, as a landowner, not allowed to utilize it themselves, but frequently they do try to get it to a needy family or something like that. There's no acreage requirement or cost associated with that, but a lot of times that's an underutilized tool, or not one that folks like to use because
shooting deer in the summer.
Yeah, shooting deer in the summer feels weird. It's a difficult time if you're a farmer to find time to do it. You've got a lot of other things you're trying to do as well, and so that was the reason for DMAP, was to have an additional tool in the toolbox that we can authorize as an alternative to the damage authorizations to also be effective.
So on the DMAP program, does the landowner, is it there kind of almost like a burden of proof to showcase the damages, or how much, how many deer they have on their property? Like, are you looking for trail camera inventory, or how do you take a landowner? I look at somebody like Mark, and I know, okay, this guy and Terry, they're dialed in on their herds. They have a very great understanding because they live and breathe it. Right. Your average guy, how do you take them at face value to know that, I could see browse pressure, but how do you know how many deer they actually have, or inventory?
Yeah, so to some extent, they do have to sort of justify the need to be in the program. Again, going back to those properties where it's damage is the main concern, they're gonna, if an agent isn't familiar with the property and never been on it before, or not that familiar with deer in the area, they're gonna want to come and see the browse and get a sense for how many deer are causing the damage. For properties enrolling for recreational deer management, so balancing the sex ratio, improving the quality of the herd, I do work with those folks to get trail camera photos if they've got trail cams out. That gives us a really good idea of the current sex ratio of the population. This
is a family show, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I watch my language. The buck to doe ratio. and get a good index of abundance. And I need that information because I'm going to make a harvest recommendation to those landowners based on the information they provide. I want it to be an appropriate recommendation, and that's the number of permits I'll authorize. So it's got to be based on some information, and trail cameras often are the best way to get that.
Then what's the follow-up once you get into firearm season and they get enrolled, you issue 10 extra tags, firearm tags. What is the process, the follow-up process after the season or after the firearm season, or is it when they harvest one, they got to report it? Obviously, you got to, I assume, report it into, is it the app, the Missouri app?
You can use the app. So the DMAP permits work the same as any of our other tags.
That's cool.
So there's the same reporting requirements. So, by 10 p.m., they've got to have checked it in through the app or calling it in on the phone. So those work the same way.
But then at the end of the season, do you go back through and review each program or each farm and in that specific, hey, you had 10 tags issued, how'd you do?
I do. So it certainly factors in, when it comes to next year, and they're maybe looking to enroll again. We'll have a conversation about, you did really good, filled all your permits. I mean, do you think that was enough, and do you think you've, achieved your goal, or do you need to re-enroll, and should we think about maybe bumping up the number a little bit? Or, you didn't get around to filling any or very few, and maybe what were the reasons for that? Did it turn out that the other permits you had available were sufficient and really didn't need the DMAP tags? So.
How long does the process start from the time someone contacts you to the time where they actually have tags?
Yeah, so it can be really quick. I'll say the enrollment period, we start it really early in the year. May 15 is the opening of our enrollment period. It goes through October 1st. Okay. So it depends when they contact me. The tags aren't made available until October 15. So I've got all the information in hand.
That was my bad.
All the information in hand by October 1, and then within 15 days after that, they can go buy their permits. So, but it depends what information they come to me with. If
I can't stop giggling. He's about to.
Sorry, I'm just going to keep.
It was such a non sequitur to it. Had no bearing on anything.
My thumb slipped.
At
least it wasn't
to the guy behind the curtain.
like a fart sound effect during one of Kevin's pauses. He's really nervous.
Sorry, Kevin. Keep
going.
That's
all right.
I probably should have let it go too.
Yes. So some properties that come to us, landowners that come to us for the first time, they've been keeping track of deer sightings. They've got a lot of trail camera photos that they can just, provide that, and very quickly I can look at that and determine, make a harvest recommendation, and they're signed up and done. Others, they're coming without any information, and we'll need to work on it, and it might take a few weeks to get the information, but that's why we have that long enrollment period, so there's plenty of time to work through that.
Yeah.
So the nuisance tags, that other program, the landowner's not allowed to keep the meat.
Correct.
What about DMAP?
Yes, absolutely. So these are deer hunting permits, and you actually have to utilize the meat just like any other hunting
you
permits.
can still donate it, or
you can donate it or give it to friends or family.
So is this antlerless only?
It is,
okay.
Yeah. So we're really focused on antlerless harvest opportunities. That's often the limiting factor. If you need to stabilize or reduce a deer population, you need to focus on doe harvest. So that's where we're directing the program.
I mean, I would say if people feel like they have too many bucks on their property, they can contact Matt or myself.
Take care.
We can help with that.
We could try. I don't know that we'd be very successful.
That's what I hear is you guys have trouble killing them sometimes.
The word's out, huh?
We have a reputation for not being good. What is this?
I think you joke about it a lot.
We invited you on this show as a guest, not a detractor.
I'm definitely in that boat as well. So.
You've come to the right place, my friend.
Good deal.
I was thinking of a new slogan for our show.
Other than not your favorite outdoor podcast.
In addition to that, the struggle is the story.
The struggle is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stories are the ones that got away are just as entertaining as
keeps it interesting.
Yeah,
Well, we got plenty of those.
So.
We just keep managing these deer to the next year.
So what's the smallest acreage of a property that can, is there any limitations as far as how small the property can be that gets enrolled into the DMAP program?
Yes, there is. So there's a requirement of at least 500 acres to enroll. And so it's a fairly substantial chunk of ground. That does not need to be a single landowner, though it can be. If you have 500 or more, you can qualify on your own. Otherwise, you're looking to your neighbors or other landowners around to enroll with you to meet that acreage requirement. And the reason for that is because we're really trying to set landowners up for success if they enroll. We want them to have a meaningful impact on long-term impact on that deer population. We know as you get to smaller acreage, there's just so many external factors that are impacting, deer coming in, deer coming out, and how you can make change on smaller acreage. So that's the reason for it.
I assume 500 contiguous, connected acres. Or?
No, so
Wrong
you can
again,
be
Matt.
you can be separated by up to half a mile and connect the dots
pretty
between
sweet.
properties. So we try to keep it reasonable so folks aren't just having to look to neighbors. They can look a little bit further out.
Yeah, that neighbor thing, that's interesting though. Say you got a couple, you got 100 acres and a guy next to you's got 200 and, you start putting it together and it almost encourages communication amongst your neighbors where that's always kind of a arm's length kind of thing for people.
Exactly.
It's like, I don't really want them to know what's happening over on my farm. But in this program, if you want to be a part of it and you have smaller acreage, you got to get the community to get on board.
I can see people trading trail cams of like a big old nanny dub being like, Betsy was on my property last night. Where's she at today, guys?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's one of the huge advantages, I think, encouraging those conversations that may not otherwise have happened. And then also, as a landowner, you've got neighbors next door that are working toward a common deer management goal. It's not just you working on it on your own.
Yeah.
You've got help around you. So
it's a pretty cool program, honestly. I mean, do you know if there's anything like it in the surrounding states or any of the other states? Do you know of any programs like this?
Yeah, there are. So DMAP programs have been around for a long time. They started in kind of the southeastern U.S. And grew in popularity going back to the 1980s. So we're kind of new to the scene in terms of DMAP, but our program is pretty streamlined and focused on providing additional doe harvest opportunities, whereas some of these other programs that started earlier, that was the first time when a landowner could call the agency and have somebody come do a site visit and write them a management plan, make recommendations on habitat management they can be doing. Whereas we have that piece. What we lacked was the harvest flexibility, so that's where we focused our program.
Is there a certain buck to doe ratio that you're looking for when you're, say, reviewing trail camera photos for those that are trying to manage their whitetail herd more so than their farm damages? Is there a certain ratio you're looking for? So like if it's more than 4-to-1 doe to buck or 3-to-1 or what is it that kind of says, hey, you know what, they have too many deer?
Yeah, it depends on the starting point. If you start out at 4-to-1, that's different. I'd take a different approach than starting out 2-to-1 or something like that. I like to take baby steps with it, authorize enough permits that you're going to see a measurable impact by the next year, maybe 2 years later, and then keep creeping it more even. Eventually, it's nice to get to around a 2-to-1 because that's pretty biologically where things would land, kind of in the absence of intervention. So
I think I'm 12-to-1 at one of my properties. It's stupid.
Yeah.
And for some reason this year, I've been seeing does with 2 and 3 fawns apiece. I don't know if it was mild winter, plenty of precipitation over the springtime. I don't know what it was.
If you think about it, it really wasn't a mild winter. I mean, we got hit pretty good there in January and February, I feel like. I mean,
we had a little
it
cold
was
snap.
mild. It was mild through the fall up through, say middle of the late December, but January, February were pretty brutal, really.
Yeah, I think it comes down to getting precipitation at the right time and a mild spring where there's good green up for the mom to be eating well, and if she's producing good milk and there's plenty of cover for the fawns, they're going to do pretty well. So I think that's what we saw this spring.
Would you ever consider trying deer milk?
Yes.
Okay.
I might consider it. As a species biologist,
I don't think so, Jim.
You almost got to wonder. You hear about biologists, that studied poisonous or venomous creatures and like wanting to just experience
licking toads.
Yeah, just learn as much about them as possible. So
And psychedelic experiences. This sounds like an excuse.
So this is the driving point to get you into conservation. He's like writing on his application, I would like to lick frogs.
So you said that you went to Auburn.
That's right.
What was the driving force? You're originally from the Kirksville area, Missouri. So what was the driving force in going into this field for you?
Yeah, well, I think I got my start much like many of us. My dad, was an avid hunter and fisherman and took me out. My grandma and grandpa had a farm there in Knox County where, I killed my many firsts there.
Sure.
And just developed a passion for it early on. And so going into college, I knew that I wanted to do wildlife conservation and kind of got introduced to the research side of it. There at that university, there were lots of opportunities to jump in on research. So I did anything from, mist netting bats and banding bats to crayfish to snakes and frogs, and then got on a
Matt's like trembling right now.
got on a
Not his
research
favorite.
project with black bears out in Alaska one summer. So that opened the whole idea of large mammal research, and so came back to Missouri. And after I graduated from Truman State University, did a research, help with a research project here on black bear genetics. And then after that, did my first whitetail deer research project out in Illinois for working for a couple of grad students there, and just fell in love with that, and that led to my master's program there at Auburn University, where it was dealing with whitetails as well.
Nice. So you got a long, you look like a young enough guy, but it sounds like you got a long history of this field.
Yeah, I really, I had a good mentor in college, an older student who kind of took me under his wing and just really kind of told me that, take advantage of every opportunity you have to add a new experience to your list. It not only makes you, look more appealing to the next person trying to hire, but also broadens your set of experiences, make you more well well-rounded. So
That's what I
it's good
should be
advice.
doing.
No, you're stuck here.
Stuck here. This dead
Think
end
about
job.
all the things you could list on your resume. Podcast host,
yeah. Troubleshooter for DeerCast.
customer service.
Right. Check. Yeah. I'm curious, a little off subject, but you mentioned black bear research. Right now, we've got, I think we're going to be 2 seasons into Missouri's modern black bear hunting. Work, and right now, currently, you're not allowed to bait black bear. In most parts of the country, that's a pretty common way of hunting them. Do you foresee a point in the future where the department would relook at that particular rule and maybe make a change on it?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not involved in some of those conversations that may have happened. I'd say it's not off the table. Very rarely is something completely off the table. But I know they wanted to start out, fairly limited opportunity, and we've got a fairly small black bear population.
Sure.
So, and just kind of see where it went. But if folks aren't being successful with the methods allowed, I would say other things might be considered.
It's fairly small, but man, like in the last, I'd say 3 years, I've seen more, especially with Facebook, more people sharing, black bear in the backyard, I had a trail camera, or it's really kind of amazing. The population is growing the way it is, which obviously is why the season was implemented, because you then have to control the population somewhat. But I know like St. Genevieve, where we're originally from, that I think there was like a stretch of a couple week period where just, I think 2 different black bears got killed on the road, hit by trucks or whatever. And I mean, growing up, I had never heard of a black bear being in that area.
Yeah.
So
the numbers are definitely on the rise these days, and you're right. That's why we, started the season now.
Yeah. Well, anything more about the DMAP program that we need to cover or we haven't covered yet, that to give people an idea of something, a reason they might want to participate?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate the enrollment period that we're in. So we've got about a month left. So it's a perfect time if this piques your interest to reach out to myself or like I said, your local conservation agent or other, MDC contact person and get that process started. So I'd say that's that'd be what I'd recommend.
You mentioned 500 acres for most chunks of ground. Like that's the minimum size.
Correct.
What about suburban context?
Good point. Yeah, so we hadn't mentioned that. So 500 acres in rural settings, but if you're within the boundaries of a municipality or town, it's only 40 acres.
Okay.
So we do make it something achievable for folks within city limits.
Sure.
So you're
Cool.
still screwed.
No, I'm good.
You-
One of-
oh, look
yeah.
at you.
Yeah.
Well, at the
Yes.
one property. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the co-op, landowners working together, combining their property still applies within city limits too, to get to 40.
Yeah. Put together like a little patchwork.
Yeah.
Yeah. Collaborative.
So-
I like it. Well, I say we jump into the real wild clip of this week. It's great having a biologist here because I'd love to get Kevin's.
All right.
He's a real scientician.
He's a real hold it. I don't know if this applies. But
This is a house of learned doctors.
more
He's
so
one,
than
not
normal.
quite.
he's 1 degree away from being a doctor. So
You're more than we are.
mean-
So-
Yeah, maybe one day. We'll see.
all right. So what do we have this week on the Real Wild Clip of the Week?
well, you've heard of hawks and you've heard of squirrels, right? They're two animals.
Oh yeah.
So we're going deep here.
Okay.
Hawks eat squirrels. Did you know that?
Yes.
But it doesn't always go the way that the hawk plans.
Sounds like we're about to watch an America's Funniest Home Video, Tim.
You won't believe it. Cue the doorbell sounder. Here we go.
Roll that footage, Alan.
All right. We got a hawk rolling around in a green field with a squirrel.
There's a real ruckus here.
And yeah, it's a guy filming from a tree stand.
Got a real Donnybrook down there in the food plot.
And the hawk's looking around like, okay, I got this killed now.
Got him.
This is
He's
good.
even shaking his head like giggity giggity.
And then for some reason, the hawk flies off and the squirrel immediately makes a beeline for the tree line.
Yeah. He's like, holy crap.
I
I was just let go.
saw my little life flash before my eyes.
So when did he let him go here? I'm still not seeing that part. Oh, okay.
Slipped
right there. Do you see how fast that squirrel runs? It's like, holy hell, he flew away. Why
Kevin-
would he fly off like that?
Get a second chance.
How is that hawk attempting? Like, what is their typical way of killing an animal like that they hit?
My guess, it's a combination of the sharp talons and their beak. So if they can dig in and kill them that way with their claws, which this one seems to have thought that it had done some damage already. But he was probably going to fly off to a perch where it feels more secure and then
Tear it
start
apart.
pecking at it.
And when he was trying to fly off, he just, the grip slipped.
That's my guess. The squirrel twisted and got loose.
You wonder also because squirrels have really sharp and big teeth. If that squirrel was able to reach around and bite that thing's,
May have been.
You think that squirrel's going to buy a lottery ticket?
I would.
He
You
just
guys-
went back to his buddies. Is like, guys, I escaped a
You will not
today."
believe what just happened.
They're like, yeah, you didn't film it.
All right, it didn't
He's like,
happen.
I swear there was a guy in the tree. Just wait. It's going to be on the internet. I swear.
That's what the conversation I think every largemouth bass has with its buddies when it gets released back into the water.
What just happened to me?
I got the scars to prove it.
Yeah.
It's like our version of an alien abduction.
Yeah.
Just let 'em
Nobody
go.
believes it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one, though.
Yeah. I think that was sent in via DeerCast.
Ah, the old DeerCast fan share.
The old escape squirrel. The old DeerCast.
The old Tim.
Everything's old. Well, we got our never gets old.
Not for me.
We got our buddy Tyler down in Arkansas who has this week's question of the day.
All right, the question of the day is probably brought to you by Victory Archery, the carbon arrow experts. Are you shooting, Tim, right
Yeah,
now?
I am.
You
And
just took your bow over to the bow shop, didn't you?
Yeah,
Yikes.
I wanted to make sure that the peep was locked in, and it's not because we go through a season. You're hauling up and down a tree, you're walking through brush, crossing fences, all that kind of good stuff.
Talking about like string twist?
String twist, and it had a little bit of mobility up and down.
Not
just
really
because
what you want.
It was right. I don't need any more variables in my shooting
Wait a
process.
second. Is it me or
This
this
looks
thing
a little
moved?
different than last. So
Look like that squirrel.
Right. The cool thing is that Mike put a little bit of whiteout on the string where it where it overlaps. Yeah, where it overlaps the peep, so that if it moves up or down at all, I can always see where it ought to go back.
Smart.
I'm seeing a little bit of string twist in mine, and I'm wondering what do you do to get rid of string twist?
You might need to go back and have him take the string off and put another twist in it to bring it around. Because I mean, you
Will
can't
that change any of my settings?
It shouldn't. You can take your D loop and kind of pull it back around.
That's what I do every time, and it's so annoying because
you shouldn't have to do it that much.
Yeah,
so you might need another twist.
Okay, because it's getting annoying because it's amazing how much that closes off your sight picture when it's twisted just ever so slightly.
Yeah.
You're just like, holy crap.
And it's probably not going to get better as the season goes on. So
well, great. No, I believe, Matthews every year they come out with a new bow in November-ish, and we get a chance to start shooting it. I should see it this week actually. So this will become my backup bow, I guess, the one I'm shooting right now. But I don't want it it's shooting really good, and I don't want it to be my backup bow. So it's the bow that I got an Iowa tag this year. It's the bow that I'll probably take with me to marks and then just leave up there in case I got to go back and forth.
Sure.
And I want to make sure it's 100% dialed in before I take it up there.
Peep sight makes a big, big difference.
Yeah. I don't need any reason to screw up a hunt at Mark's place.
It was the peep, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's no problem.
No problem. See you never. It's already been 20 years. Actually, 41 if you count my entire life.
Yeah, you can't wait till the next time.
No, there will be no next time.
So go to the archery shop, get your rig set up now.
Yeah.
The archery shops are only going to get more backed up, and you're going to wait and wait and wait. Season's getting here.
When's this show air? Tomorrow? No, Wednesday? Tomorrow?
Yeah, I think tomorrow.
Of course, my bow's at home. I want to get out before everybody rushes over to Mike's. beat the crowd. The word on the street from the insiders that are on the street that are talking words is you go early in the week when people don't have as much money.
$200 is $200.
If you wait till Friday when people get their paychecks and they go to the bow shop, you're going to be waiting.
The end of the week?
Mm-hmm. So don't go.
Do most people get paid at the end of the week? Do people get paid?
I would like to at some point. I've been meaning to speak with you about that.
Well, after the podcast,
So,
we can
okay.
check in.
Keeps getting pushed off.
We better get to this question.
All right, Tyler.
All right, we got to change the topic.
Hey, Matt and Tim.
Hey,
My
Tyler.
name's Tyler. I'm a new bow hunter from Arkansas.
All right.
I love the podcast, but I got a question. What's going to be better for new bow hunters, hunting from the ground or hunting in a tree?
It's awesome that Tyler is a new bow hunter. I'm always I wish I could ask him what got you into bow hunting, because sounds like an adult, and becoming a bow hunter as an adult is not an easy thing to do.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
I'm a grown man.
That's the press conference from that coach. You ever heard that one? Was he the Vanderbilt coach? I forget who.
Vaguely.
I'm the man. I'm 40.
Anytime you have to say that, it's
we
probably
need that soundbite.
It's probably
Alan.
not great.
He's shaking his head like, yeah. All right, so we should get to Tyler's question. I
Back
get
to Tyler.
sidetracked real easily.
Kevin, do you have any opinions on the ground or in a tree?
That they obviously both have their advantages. I think sitting on the ground, it's just a simpler way to hunt a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't require as much gear. You find you can make yourself a pretty easy, ground blind out of limbs and just debris that you find around, and that can be really effective. Hunting terrain, especially if you can get on a elevated slope a little bit and still have kind of the upper advantage to deer where you expect them to go. So might start there, just keep it simple and see how it goes. I think it can be successful.
I think it would depend on if he has any fear of heights or not. I mean, I personally would rather probably, if you didn't have a fear of heights, I'd probably rather start from a tree, just so you get away with a little more movement. If he's a new hunter and he's not used to understanding or knowing how easy it is to get caught by a deer's eyes, it's just you don't get away with much movement on the ground, and they're super edgy. If you don't really have all your ducks in a row and getting drawn. Now, if you're in an enclosed pop-up blind, it's a little easier, and you can get away with murder as far as getting away with movement. And heck, you can have your kid with you, and you could be doing cartwheels inside that thing and probably get away with it. But if you don't have that and you're wanting to experience, the experience is much different from a tree versus a ground. There's no doubt about that. Being in a tree, even a tree stand versus a box blind in the air, no comparison. Tree stand's where it's at. Seeing things around you, your vision, pretty much all the way around. You can tilt your head all the way around and really see what's happening in the woods, and it's just not as easy to understand what's coming in on you from the ground, what might be coming from behind you. So that would be the only thing that I would say as far as one versus the other. If you don't have a fear of heights and you have the ability to go buy a tree stand, you know, you can get some great climbers or saddles, or, you know, that might be a little more technically advanced for a start than you want to get into for starting out. But the ladder stand, you know, there's a lot of things you can do.
I mean, it's interesting you bring up the notion of a saddle, especially if you're new.
I'm sure that is to you, Tim.
So here's why it's a superior.
Tim's a saddle guy.
Oh yeah.
I've killed $2 out of it, and so I've become the expert, the
Here in this
de
office.
facto expert at Drury Outdoors on saddle hunting.
Because no one else will do it.
Right, that's it. That's the de facto part. But especially if you're new and you don't have a whole lot of stand locations, a saddle would be a great way because you can easily go up and go down and not have to invest a whole lot in putting the ladder up and a hang on. It's a really great way to be able to get around and hunt different places and do some.
I'd
looking
practice
around.
ahead of time. That's not something you want to do in the dark.
Figure it out
for the first time.
I'll just figure this out on the
Wearing this
fly.
diaper.
No biggie.
Is it harder or easier to use than like a climbing stand?
It's different.
Great answer.
It's different. You're strapping ladder segments or maybe you're using a rope ascender, which is a little different kind of a setup. But it's the nice thing is you don't have to find, like with a climber stand, you're looking for a telephone pole style tree to get up into. With a saddle, you can be a lot more flexible in the kinds of trees you can get up into. Okay. But back to Tyler's question, also, if he can count on a steady wind, a steady directionally stable wind, you can get away with more on the ground. If you know, like, I'm always going to have a westerly wind here, it's not going to shift. I'm not in a holler and it's swirling around and stuff. You can hunt on the ground and I think get away with a little bit more. My problem has always been, like, everywhere I hunt, it seems like the winds swirl, and I want to get up above them as high as I can to help kind of buffer against that. Yeah. So from that aspect, I like being up elevated in tree. So.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Tyler, thanks for the question.
Tyler, you're going to have to let us know how it worked out, what you end up doing, because I'm curious. Ground, air.
Yeah. And then if you kill, post it up in DeerCast. We'll make it a fan share.
Huh. Second time we've mentioned fan shares.
Huh. It's almost like we like seeing people be successful. In the
$200 is $200.
Pay Tim to say fan share.
Ooh.
This is how he gets paid.
This life is sponsored in part by
Fan shares.
And then also, Tyler, get a hold of me through the Rack Pack, and we'll send you a 100% Wild podcast hat, in case you're short on hats. It won't be your favorite hat, but you will indeed
Tell
wear
you what,
it.
if he works in the hunting industry, he's never short on hats.
That's true.
I get about 50 a day here, it seems like.
Bring us an MDC hat, maybe.
Should have.
Like one that says agent on it.
Those are pretty exclusive. I don't have one of those.
I just got a vest that says it in white on the back. No biggie.
There you go.
It's also in whiteout.
That looks homemade. Huh.
It's all crusty.
Asking people where they're hunting at. Yeah. That's probably illegal. Okay, speaking of against the law, this week's wildlife word. It's brought to you by Tenzing Packs. Go further, hunt longer.
We used our Tenzing this past week. We're at the lease, and we're shoving trail cameras into it and riding our e-bike out to the spots. That's right. That's right.
Let's roll, Scott.
What was that lady's name? Mrs. Gulch? Something like that. From Wizard of Oz, yeah. Mrs. Gulch. That name, I never knew it my entire life, but when we started watching it with the kids, it's etched into their minds for some reason. It's like the weird things that kids pick up on.
Yeah. It's all the random trivia that's up in your brain.
Yeah.
It's replacing stuff that's really important.
Yeah.
All right.
There was never anything important.
This is going to be important. All right. So we're talking about whitetails and their sleep cycles.
All right.
Because sometimes they got to go seepy. They get tired. A typical sleep cycle for a whitetail lasts about how long? Is it A, 30 minutes, B, 4 hours? Matt's staring a hole through Kevin right now.
You better know this, dude.
C, 2 hours, or D, 6 hours? 30 minutes, 4 hours, 2 hours, or 6 hours?
You very rarely ever see a whitetail sleeping. Like, you might catch one bed. Like, say you're hunting during the rut and you see one like bed down, in the leaves next to you or something. But Do you really ever see one sleeping for very long?
Yeah, I know it's not going to be some of those longer ones, just because I've seen enough GPS data to know they're moving pretty frequently. I would tend to go with the 30 minutes. It might get me, and it might be closer to the 2 hours, but somewhere in that range.
I should have mentioned there's money at stake.
Oh boy.
$200.
Yes, that you would end up owing us if you're wrong.
100 each.
We don't gift anyone money.
Hey, listen, you want to come into the podcast, bring cash.
There's a price to pay. These sets don't make themselves.
Is that what the ATM's for?
Yeah, that's right.
I should have mentioned, Kevin.
like you're at the bar.
This appearance will cost you dearly in terms of reputation and monetarily.
No. You wait till they are about to leave, then you say, "Hey, where's your money at?" You had to pay to be on this.
I know this may not sound classy,
This
but
would it would make like all those conspiracy theory guys about the MDC would be like, "I knew it."
they're on the take.
And the DMAP program's all about the insurance companies.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Of course, you have. That's
we're bought
what
and
you-
paid.
Go to any like Facebook group page or like the old chat sites. It's always about a mystic insurance company paying off the conservation department.
Yeah. You can say anything you want anymore, and it gains traction.
Well, yeah,
You have a prosthetic beard.
you're beautiful.
Prefer
Do I get any
handsome,
compliments?
It's all
What
fake.
about me?
Gotcha.
All right, I'm going with A. 30 minutes of sleep.
Okay, going with the biologist.
Well, he said A or D, and that's what I would have went with. A or D.
I would
but
go with. Yeah,
I'm gonna
30
go with A
minutes.
because I've never seen one sleep for more than 30 minutes.
There you go. That's it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. They
Sounds like Terry.
and during these so that's a cycle. During that 30 minutes, they're vacillating between actually sleeping and being in a relatively alert state. Like they'll put their head down, they may sleep for 30 seconds to 2 minutes, and then pick their head up in an alert state, kind of look around, their ears are still going, and then they'll put their head back down and they'll sleep again for another 30 seconds to 2 minutes.
This is literally how Terry sleeps.
Wow, he's been with the whitetails too
I
long.
swear to you, this is how the guy sleeps. We've got hours of footage of it to prove it.
And he hears like a Little Debbie rapper
Oh yeah, you hear
crinkling.
the little Debbie's like an alarm clock.
Time to feed.
That's right.
So yeah, they are always scanning with their head
that
on a
was good.
swivel.
You almost sounded like a deer biologist here.
Hey, I have a minor in zoo.
You got to know a thing or two to have hunted them for that long.
I almost last week we had Dr. Bronson Strickland, and I almost said like, "I'll have you know, sir, I have a minor in my undergraduate degree in zoology, so watch your step."
Yeah.
just to keep him
Just to
honest.
impress him.
because I'm sure he would have been impressed by that.
Pretty
Who wouldn't
intimidating.
be?
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's impressed by us, Tim.
Oh.
We better move along to the shout
I'll
outs.
stay out of it.
Kevin's like, I'm not impressed either.
I want to get the hell out of here.
He's like, you guys have a show?
I can't show this to anybody.
Okay, we got shout outs. We got our buddy Isaiah 459 on Apple. He gave us a 5-star review, said awesome podcast, informative, funny sounds like people you'd actually have fun hanging out with, unlike some other podcast.
I'd like him to name names.
Yeah, as I read
Is he
that, I was
talking
like,
about like people we know?
is he like, he's throwing some other podcast under the bus.
Wonder if they air on DeerCast.
I don't know, but
Little Curtis.
Isaiah's got an axe to grind against someone.
Well, I'm glad we brought the heat with funny.
I would
great,
say
informative.
we're much less impressive in person, as Kevin has quickly
Getting a
learned.
good dose
I'm
of
having
it.
a good time.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right. That's all we're good for.
We're here for a good time.
All right. So when he told me that you were coming in. He sent me a Slack message and he had your name typed out. And we do this section where we welcome new Rack Pack members. And so the Rack Pack is like this private Facebook group that we have for the people who listen to the podcast. And you gotta join it. And so then every week Tim puts down a list of names of people who joined. Every week I read these names and just totally butcher them. And every week there's a fake name in the midst. When I saw your name, I thought I would butcher it and it could be the fake
Yeah,
name.
I could see that.
It could be both of these.
I saw it and I was like, why don't you get an American name? You're in the USA.
It's from Chelsvik here. Have you seen his last name?
Exactly.
He's a commie.
I live in a glass house. I'm okay with that.
All right, so the new Rack Pack members this week. Matthew Boroa,
That's
Dalton
exactly
Michael.
how he pronounces
Is
that.
it?
He goes to my church. I'm Matthew Burrowa.
Gonna be a jerk about it. Dalton Michael. Okay, so just what was it, yesterday or this morning? Tim put a bunch of the new names and like welcoming the new members, and I wrote in there. I was like, man, there's a bunch of names here I could screw up. And of course, everybody's like, man, Matt would screw up all these names. Okay, we got Dalton Michael, Matt Legler, Eric, Tim Mirsich.
It looks like Mirsich or maybe Mirsik.
Okay, Matthew Caesar, Dakota Butler, Brian Fellow, Drew Eddy, Martin Evans, Bronson Strickland, who we just had on the podcast.
He's now a
Do we have back-to-back episodes where we have like actual learned people on this?
Well, the last episode was
rare.
a fan share.
No, it didn't go up though, did it?
It will once this one goes up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So wait, so this one goes up at the end of the week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the fake name here?
You want to take a look there,
Matthew
Kevin?
Caesar, Dakota Butler, Brian Fellow. Tim's got a serious look on his face. Well, I know it's
That's
not
the only
Bronson
look I have.
because we just interviewed. It can't be that guy.
He's legit.
And you said that first guy goes to your church. Mm-hmm. Matt Legler. Matt so what you got to do here
Is there usually a hidden something
like
hidden
Bart
in there?
Simpson.
Like Seymour Butts.
Gotcha.
I'm out
Or
of
sometimes
ideas.
they're references.
Matthew Caesar. I don't know, Tim. I'm out of it.
Did you ever watch the SNL skit with Tracy Morgan when he plays the wildlife biologist? Brian Fellow, Safari Planet. Brian Fellow, Safari Planet.
Yeah. Okay. That was a stretch.
And
Tim.
he's just belligerent to the animals.
Is that how you do your deal? Just go out there and you're belligerent to all the animals.
That groundhog looked at me funny. I don't like that groundhog.
All right. So the fake name is Brian Fellow.
Fellow. Yep.
Man, if you start putting in like references to Saturday Night Live and pop culture, like I'm never going to pick out these fake names.
See, over my head.
Over mine as well.
Okay. Maybe more Star Trek. Dumbledore Calrissian.
I would get Calrissian.
Okay. Not Dumbledore
Star Wars
Calrissian.
fan. Dumbledore, I get that one. Harry Potter. I can put two and two
Dork
together.
Vader.
I have kids. Dork Vader. I got that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's about all we have for this week.
Are you regretting that you came on, or are you happy that you came on?
Oh, super happy.
Oh,
I didn't have to make a special trip over
Low
for this.
standards.
Yeah, I was
Worked
in
out
the
the
neighborhood.
schedule.
It worked out good.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, you said that you were in town for work, and that we usually shoot these on Tuesdays. It's like he could drive back. I'm like, that seems like a gross,
Not worth it.
like disservice to his time. Let's try to get it while he's in town.
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate you making it work. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Now that I know you, though, next time I'll try to make it an extra trip for you.
That's fine. I'll still drive over. It was that much fun.
No, we appreciate you coming in, and the DMAP program pretty neat. Hopefully, this will help get the word out for those interested, and those that don't qualify. Start talking to your landowners around you, and maybe put a little group together. And
Yeah.
there's still about a month left of enrollment,
right.
so you can still affect it for this season, which
That's
is
right.
huge.
Yeah,
So
Clear some of them does out of there.
that's right.
they gotta go. If
Okay.
you're a doe, you gotta go.
Did you make that up?
Yeah, I just did.
Man.
Usually I'm not that quick-witted.
That's awesome.
Had a lot of sleep, a whole 6 hours last night.
All right, well, let's shut her down. Kevin,
All
thanks
right.
for hopping on, buddy.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Till next time, peace out.
DeerCast is now supercharged with maps. Get ahead of your game with killer new features like live Doppler radar, wind check out to 5 days, virtual rain gauges, GPS path tracking, and more. Plus, get our 14-day revolutionary DeerCast prediction and access to DeerCast Track. Prep, predict, and pursue with DeerCast.
We're adding new videos every week, so make sure to click that subscribe button and check out all of our amazing content. This episode of DoD TV was brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's.